Welcome everybody to our webinar, 5 Steps for Building Your Customer Engagement Model. I am Liz Tahunar, and I am a Senior Customer Success Manager here at Totango. I'm based in Texas, so I saw that we had some people from Vancouver. It's not quite as lovely here in the summer as it is in Vancouver, but it is definitely summertime for us as well. And I'm joined here by Ali Irvin, a wonderful customer from Extreme Networks. We've been working together on building their engagement model into Totango for about a year now. And when Extreme first came to us and let us know that they were going to be building a multifaceted engagement model, both high touch and digital touch at the same time, we knew that it was going to be a great journey together. And so I'm excited to pass it over to Ali so that she can give you a little bit of the background and introduce herself as well. So welcome, Ali.
Thanks, Liz. Thanks so much for having me today. And thanks everybody for joining. We're really excited. Liz and I have worked together in the past in many capacities. So I jumped at the opportunity to join Liz to talk about customer engagement. I lead the digital scale customer success team at Extreme Networks. I've been here for just under a year, and I'm located in New Orleans. So it is hot and muggy here.
Excellent. So in terms of identifying the steps that you would need to take when building your engagement model, this is going to be true regardless of what type of engagement model you choose to build. So different customers have different needs, of course. So take that with whatever as it makes sense to you. So the first thing that you'll want to do is make sure that you identify the right team members. Then you're going to map your journey or journeys, depending upon how many different types of engagement models you may be building. You'll hone your data. Data is, of course, critical, and we're going to jump into some examples of data that you may want to consider. Once you have all of that squared away, you'll, of course, begin the build process and then measure your progress. So let's jump in a little bit deeper to these 5 steps.
Great. So I'll kick us off and talk about our first step, identifying the right team members and how we applied this. So Extreme Networks hired a customer success leader about a year ago, a little over a year ago, to build a customer success organization and function. As our product portfolio was growing from network hardware infrastructure to include more subscription solutions, we knew we needed a team at that time to take customers through the unique journey of a subscription product, a subscription customer. And we also knew that we would need 2 kinds of engagements. Liz mentioned this, but we knew that we would need a higher touch engagement for some key customers. But we also knew that, as a large mature company with many thousands of customers, we knew we would need a solution that scaled too. So once we decided on that, the first step in building our customer engagement model was just identifying the right team members. And we thought about this with a RACI model. We approached this question with this RACI model. So you've probably seen something like this before, but the RACI model identifies for a given task or project who's responsible, who's accountable, who is consulted, and who's informed. So we started with our core team on customer success. Who's accountable for designing and delivering the plays, monitoring and delivering on the KPIs, and leading the governance of the engagement. And that was our CS leads and our CS core team. Then we thought about who would help us build it. So that's a bigger team. Lots of people are involved to answer questions, build the systems and tools that we need. So in addition to our customer success team, we worked with sales ops, our IT team, and project management teams to help us keep on track to our milestones. We consulted with more teams at Extreme. So thinking about engaging with your product team. So asking questions like, what are the outcomes that our products solve? What's the adoption path through our products? And then also working with marketing and product marketing. How are we going to market? What are the different customer segments? We work with sales, renewals teams, services teams to identify handoffs and how we work together. And these are all teams that you may want to think about working with when you're building your customer engagement model too. And then lastly, keeping our executive sponsor and executive team informed of our progress.
Excellent. And once Extreme had identified the right stakeholders for the project, they then moved to mapping the journey. So I'm going to talk a little bit about mapping your journey, especially because within Totango, we have a feature that will help you map your journey. So don't be overwhelmed. You can actually do it straight in the tool. It's called the Experience Canvas. And this will actually help you design and build simultaneously. So I'm going to show you an image of what that looks like. This is an example of the canvas. And so what you can see here is a visual representation of the actual journey itself. And so what this allows you to do is go through and in draft status, kind of skeleton out and build what it is that you're looking to have as part of your journey. And this can be for various initiatives like onboarding, adoption, renewal, so on and so forth. You could make a canvas for each one. And that way you can keep organized and have a centrally located place for your team to refer back to so that they understand over time how the journey may evolve.
All right, and the next step in defining the engagement model is defining and honing the right data. And it's really intentional that this step happens right here after mapping the journey, because you really need to map your journey first and then use that journey to identify the data that you need. We considered what data we might need, and I would encourage you to also look at these 5 categories of data. It might not cover everything, but it's good to make sure that you're thinking about data that you might have available in all of these areas. But it's okay if you don't have everything right away. For example, we are still building our capabilities in pulling deep and detailed usage data into Totango, but that's okay. We launched our engagement model without that data, knowing that we could grow into it. We were really careful to not just bring in data. We have many systems, many tools, so much data out there, but we wanted, when we built our engagement model, our CS engagement model, we wanted everything to have a use or a purpose. Everything should have, an SLA or a place where it is used in our model. You can use data to think about how you filter different segments of customers for different approaches, different use cases, or like us, different levels of engagement. You can use data to trigger an activity. So when this data, when this piece of data comes in, or this event happens, then this event should happen next. Or should inform your customer success managers in a certain way for, guiding customer interaction or helping them to prepare for a customer meeting. But again, we didn't want to bring in data just for the sake of bringing in data. It was important for us to use that journey to identify exactly what we needed and find the right source and work with our IT team to make sure our data was clean and ready to go.
Yeah, Allie, I think you bring up a really great point, which is that data can be used in so many different places. It powers so many different parts of Totango. But what I think that Extreme did really well was be really methodical about what was going to be actually utilized, so that you had enough data, but you also had the right data, so that when you went to build a segment or do some reporting, once your engagement model was launched, there wasn't kind of this like mad scramble of, oh, we're missing that data too. It was, a very methodical approach. So I think that's something that definitely helped in the process. And with that, we'll move on to the build step. So to kind of go back a little bit to the canvas that I mentioned, if you do use the canvas to do your journey mapping, you've actually already started the building, which is a really wonderful thing. But let's say that you have mapped out your journey and you're looking to build additional areas of focus. So for example, maybe you started with an onboarding journey and now you're moving on to adoption. We do have a customer journey marketplace, which I think is really helpful. As Ali mentioned before, we have worked together in the past and we're actually responsible for launching journeys together as customers of Totango's. And what we found was that having the journey marketplace to utilize has built-in best practices. It really made our lives easier. And I've seen this as well with my customers here at Totango. So what we have is this marketplace where you can go and you can select, you'll see there's some examples here for maximizing upsells or digital onboarding, things of that sort. These are built out for you to help you get started so that you're not having to build everything from scratch. And this will give you a good idea of the areas you may want to tweak or edit to meet the journeys that you have sketched out to help you build. Excellent. Once you've built and you have configured everything that you would like to configure and you set your journeys live for your team, of course, we would be remiss if we didn't bring up measuring the impacts, because if we're going to put something in place, we want to make sure that it's really having the impact we intend for it to have. And we want to mention kind of three main ways that you can do that within Totango to measure the impact of your engagement model. So first and foremost, you can build relevant segments. So segments are a way for you to look at the various data points and activities that are within Totango and actually take a good look at them by different types of customer, if you will. So this gives you the ability to identify those important metrics, and you can do this by accounts, but you can actually also do this by Totango users. So the value in that is that if you are a manager and you're listening to this today, that gives you the ability to start your kind of adoption tracking and impact measuring. And the second way is scorecards. So segments and scorecards go hand in hand with one another. So once we know what segment of customers we want to take a look at, we can actually even hone in further and create a really beautiful dashboard of those key KPIs. We see this being heavily used not only by teams to help keep your CSMs and team members in the know of what and how their accounts are progressing through the different journeys, but also we see this used very commonly to build a dashboard for executive tracking. So oftentimes executives want a singular place that they can go and see all those high-level KPIs, how performance is going within Totango, but also the journey, so how your customers are reacting to what you've built. So scorecards are what will enable you to do that. And then the last area of impact measurement is manager-led adoption. This is really critical. This is where we encourage you as a best practice to use Totango as your source of truth. That means that managers will cover segments and scorecards in each of their one-on-ones. And what that allows is for the team to really kind of congregate around those centralized journeys that have been built in the tool and use that, again, like I said, as a source of truth. So anything they need to know, there's tons of transparency. They know where their customers are at, how they're progressing. And then, of course, you as the manager know how they're progressing through their use of the tool. So I'm going to pass it over to Allie to give some examples of how Extreme has utilized these different features for measuring impact.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. So, when we built and launched our customer engagement models, the first thing we did, and we did this very early on, we knew what we ultimately wanted to measure. We knew it would take us some time to grow into that, but we designed our customer success scorecard very early on in our life as a customer success team. So that helped us to build relevant segments right off the bat. We knew we would need to track things for different geographic regions differently, or customers who were using different products. And that also helped us define even our hierarchy within Totango, knowing how we would need to measure things down the line. We built a few scorecards to help us measure our progress. So we have scorecards to help each customer success manager look at their own portfolio and how they're progressing. We have, of course, scorecards for each success block. So we started with just customer success, just an onboarding success block. And we look at our KPIs for onboarding. We have scorecards for our customer success team leads to keep track of how their team is progressing, and then also some to keep our execs informed as well. Really important for us from the beginning too, in addition to tracking the KPIs that mattered to us as a customer success team and how we wanted to report on our performance, we also wanted to see how the team was adopting Totango. And I know there are some members of my team on this call, and you heard me say this a million times, but we knew that it would take us a long time to baseline our data. We just launched, we were brand new. We had some metrics we knew we had targets for, customer satisfaction, for example, but some we knew we were doing brand new activities and we knew we would need to baseline, our expectations for example, how many touch points it would take for a customer to onboard, or how much time it would take for customers to get through onboarding for each product. So knowing that it would take us a while to baseline the metrics and be able to take anything meaningful from them, measuring adoption was important for us, because we knew that if the team adopted Totango, that we could scale it. If the team was using Totango, they understood it. We know that we could introduce more plays, more products, more customers, and bring those in seamlessly to our engagement model. So that was really important for us when we launched. And in the first quarter, when we launched our digital onboarding plays, so after we, onboarded with Totango, we launched our plays, we logged about 2,200 touch points with our team of 5, which was incredible. In the first 6 months of using Totango, we saw an increased adoption of the product that we were working with of about 20%. So those are the key metrics that we're tracking. And again, just taking some time to grow in to the rest of our customer success KPIs as we adopt our new engagement models.
Excellent. So with that, Extreme has gone through such a journey with building these engagement models. And so Allie and I sat down and put our heads together to really discuss, okay, if someone was going to sit down and try to replicate this or build their own journeys, what are some of those pitfalls that we would want to advise them to avoid? So with that, I'll pass it over to Allie to cover a couple of the first ones, and I'll take the latter.
Sure. So when you are either building a customer engagement model for the first time, or, revisiting or refining one that's in progress, and based on the poll results, I know that that's where a lot of people are. You already have a customer engagement model, but maybe you're refining it a little bit. I think first, getting stakeholder buy-in is really important. And even outside of that RACI chart, who are the stakeholders? Who do we need to get bought into the way that we're engaging with customers? We're part of customer-facing teams, and there are often, and I'm sure many on the call can relate, there's often many people at our organizations who are talking to customers. So we need to all be moving in the same direction. And we need to also, depending on where we are in our life cycle, we need to help the rest of our organization understand how exactly we're providing value and what's in it for them. So I think some ways to do this are, first of all, identifying handoffs and any, potentially sticky areas. And then also using those KPIs to go back and report to those teams and how you're delivering in the metrics that matter to their organizations too. Secondly, I think another way to have a successful launch of a customer engagement model is to have very clearly defined customer journeys and customer segmentation. So thinking early on when you're mapping your journey, do you have different use cases or different go-to-market strategies for different segments of customers that you need to map unique journeys for? Making sure that you're considering all of those and covering all the cases. And you don't necessarily have to start with building every one of them. Maybe focus on the biggest one or the most important one, or the one that has the most relevant product roadmap activities. Whatever it is, you can start with one, but just making sure that you're thinking about all of those different possible journeys.
Fantastic. So next up would be dirty data. So Allie touched on this a bit earlier, but making sure that the data that you're bringing in is clean. So understanding the source of where it comes from. And many times this does take, of course, stakeholder buy-in. So making sure that you are working with the right stakeholders from a data integration perspective. And then we see commonly customers who get very rigid in their journey mapping. So they don't allow for flexibility or consider edge cases. But the good news is that Totango is super flexible. It's very easy to make changes and to evolve your journeys as you go along. So if you put something in place and you do find that there's an edge case or perhaps a small subset of customers that don't fit into your regular journey or your prescribed journey, you can always use the canvas or our success plays and campaigns to map those edge cases so that everybody has the correct flow to go through. And then, of course, building everything from scratch, or thinking that you need to build everything from scratch. We covered this today, but just know that you certainly don't have to. Utilize the tools that we have there for you to make your life easier. Even if you just download the block to see what's in there from a best practice perspective, adopt what you like and get rid of what it is that doesn't fit for you. But that'll give you at least a place to start, and you don't have to begin from ground zero. And just a few key takeaways before we move to Q&A session. So overall, we just want to wrap and put these kind of in front of you. So establish the right team. So getting buy-in from stakeholders is super critical. It's going to help your project flow from start to finish much easier. Mapping your journeys. Use the canvas. You can design and build in one place. You don't have to design in a third-party tool and then import it into Totango. You can actually do it all in one. Allow for flexibility. You can always edit, and I can tell you it is really that simple to edit into Totango. It's very composable, very modular in nature, and it's built to make your life easier. Clean data is the best, of course. So making sure that you have a good handle on what data and that it's squeaky clean when you bring it in. And then, of course, use the customer journey marketplace to help you configure. Best practices have been built in. Use that. It really is going to help you. It's a lifesaver. And identify impactful KPIs to measure success. This is really how we kind of push forward and we make customer success everyone's journey within the company. And show them that, we are a customer-focused organization, and this is how we're going to promote our customers through their onboarding, adoption, and whatever other life cycle stages that they go through. Those KPIs will really speak for themselves. So utilizing and identifying those. Excellent. And with that, the Q&A session is open. So we're going to give you just a couple of minutes. If you do have questions, feel free to input them in there and we will go through and answer those. But while you do that, I just wanted to go through a couple items. We do have some upcoming webinars. We have a part 2 of recession proofing your business, which is bound to be a really great series. If hopefully you were able to join us for part 1, if not, there will be a recording of that. And then of course, part 3, which would be 5 strategies for customer growth. So working through the kind of current economic climate and how you can continue to scale and grow your CS works. And last but not least, as we're waiting for your questions to come in, we do have a customer success summit coming up in September, the 14th through 16th in Miami. This will be a really great event. When I was a customer, I joined this summit myself and learned really a whole wealth of knowledge there to see how I could better utilize Totango. We'd love to have you join us, so check it out. And of course, everything that we talked about today, if you're not a current Totango customer or you're just getting started, there is a free community edition that you're more than welcome to utilize so that you can start thinking about your engagement model and how you may build it. And of course, we're always here if you do have questions. But with that, with just 3 minutes left, we are going to move to our questions. So we have 2 questions that have come in. And the first one here is, can you build more than one engagement model at a time, or is it best to start with one and evolve from there? So I'll take this one. I would say that, Ali, I would love your input here as well, but it's up to you. We see customers do it in both ways. Those that say, first and foremost, absolute top priority is we need to start with, let's say, a digital touch model. We can help you enable that, get it up and running off the ground, and then you can evolve to the next journey that you'd like. If you want to do it both at the same time, Extreme is the example. They did it at the same time and it was successful. So I think following the steps that we've laid out, it is possible to build high touch, low touch, or however your journey engagement models break out. At the same time, just being thoughtful and methodical about that. And really the key is having the right stakeholders. Make sure you have the right people to help you build it. Anything to add there, Ali?
No, I mean, you covered it. We built both of our customer journeys at the same time, I think it was helpful for us to say, to kind of look at them side by side and think about how the journeys would be different. That said, we've built other customer journeys later, or thought about other customer journeys and kind of focus on one at a time. So can definitely do either way. And, the other thing we thought about was our digital approaches sort of underpins our high touch approach. So, it makes sense to build them together.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, and the second question that we have here is for you, Allie. What was the biggest challenge you faced when mapping your journeys?
I think the biggest challenge for us was wanting to do everything all at once. I mentioned this earlier, we're a mature company. We have thousands of customers. And, sometimes it felt like we were running alongside a moving train and trying to jump on it. But the way we got around that, the way we dealt with that was just starting small and being okay with that. You can't boil the ocean. So what do? We picked one product, we picked one stage, one customer lifecycle stage, one success block, and started there. And we'll build from there and, can use Totango to scale. But I think that's the biggest challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's common, especially if you do open up that marketplace and you see so many different life cycles and initiatives you can focus on. So onboarding, adoption, renewal, escalation, risk. Oh my God, there's so many. You don't have to do them all at once. It's okay to start with one. We're going to do risk for high touch and then build from there and evolve as you go. So yeah, I think that's really great advice. And with that, we're right at time, right at the half hour. So I really appreciate you all joining today. If you do have any other follow-up questions, feel free to get in contact with us. And we hope that you found this valuable today. Thanks so much.